Okay, so our next set of questions involving limits asks us to use some limit rules. So what are the limit rules? We haven't really talked about those. So some of the ones that we use often tell us that basically limits act the way we hope they would act, that they act much like what you would expect in terms of other things we've seen, like logarithms and those sorts of things, where first we have to assume, the assumption on these is that for each of the things I mentioned down here, that the limit as x approaches a of f of x and g of x exists, because without that, well, then the whole thing falls apart, obviously, if you have something that's in bad terms. But yeah, for addition and subtraction, so if I've got two functions added together that I'm trying to find the limit of, I can actually break those apart and find the limit of one part of that function plus the limit of that other part of the function. And we'll see how that becomes very useful with polynomials or other expressions like that. Also, sometimes it becomes useful to have them together and to link them up into combining the other way. So while I'm going to talk about them all going this direction, going back the other direction can help as well. If I have a constant multiplier, so if I have a constant times some sort of function, and I'm trying to find the limit of that, I can also just bring that constant out front and say it's the constant times that limit of the function f of x. And that follows easily from the product law, which says I can actually do the same thing with any expression. In that, if I have two functions multiplied together, again, as long as the limit of each exists, then the limit of that product is the product of the individual limits. And so if this is true, then the constant multiplier makes perfect sense, because I could just say that this is a constant and the limit as x approaches a of a constant is still that constant. So product works, constant multiplier works. By the same token, quotient law works, that if I have two things divided by each other, I can split them apart and have the limit of the one divided by the limit of the other. And then the other one that's not necessarily intuitive is that if I have a function raised to a power, I can also and I'm trying to find the limit of that, I can take the limit of that function and raise that entire thing to the power. And also, I kind of skipped over it, but the addition law up here, it works the same way if it were subtraction. If you put a minus sign in there and a minus sign in there, f of x minus g of x, it works just as well. Which again kind of follows out if you know the constant multiplier -1 works, and so we can get that. So taking those, let's just kind of leave it at that, and we'll go to the examples with the next video.